Okay, good morning. Baruch Hashem, we are starting a new book, Sefer Shmuel, the third book. Sefer Yoshua took us 1 year, Sefer Shoftim 1.5 years almost. And now we are starting Sefer Shmuel, which is much, much longer. As usual, when we start new book, like I did in the last times, I'm going to start with a big picture and going then focusing on the book itself. I will repeat some of the things that we saw in the beginning of the other books, but it's important to remember from time to time how it's constructed. So we have the Tanakh. Tanakh, in English, usually we translate as Bible. Bible comes from the Greek word of book. That's how you say book in Greek. And Tanakh is actually other words. It's 3 different words. Tanakh is Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. So we have the 5 books of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the Torah. Then we have Nevi'im. Nevi'im is divided for what we call Nevi'im Rishonim and Nevi'im Achronim. Nevi'im Rishonim are the books Yoshua, Shoftim, Shmuel, and Melachim. Nevi'im Achronim is the 3 big prophets, Yeshaya, Yirmiyah, Yechezkel, and the 11 smaller ones. The books they collected 11 different prophets from different times, different styles, etc., to one book, not to lose any one of them. So this is Nevi'im Achronim. So we said Rishonim and Achronim, first and last, not necessarily because of the historical order, because some of the Nevi'im Achronim are before the ends of the Nevi'im Rishonim. So Nevi'im Rishonim goes until the destruction of the temple. The end of Sefer Melachim is the destruction of the first temple. So it goes until there, while the prophets, the Nevi'im Achronim, Yeshaya, Yirmiyah, Yechezkel were before. Yirmiyah and Yechezkel were in the time of the destruction. Yeshaya was before. And also from the 11 small prophets are prophets that were before. So it's not so much first and last in the historical order, but we should explain why maybe. And I'm going to speak about it shortly. But yeah, generally it is the first Yoshua, Shoftim, and Shmuel are before all the others. So maybe Melachim is only one who overlap the historical times. Now, after that, we have the Ketuvim, which include the Megillot, Sifrei Ezra and Nehemiah, that speaks about the Second Temple times, Divrei Hayamim, Chronicles, that speak about all the history from the beginning to the destruction of the temple and the return to Eretz Israel. And we have also the books of Shlomo, Mishlei, and Kohelet is Mishlei, Shir HaShirim, and Kohelet are Megillot, and Tehillim, and Iyov. So why to divide it in this way? What does it mean, Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim? Why just not one big book like in the English word Bible, right? A big book that include all the holy books. And what happened with other books that didn't enter to the Bible? Why, for example, the Talmud is not part of the Bible? What's the difference between the Talmud and the Bible? Or other books that not even consider, we had books from the times of the Second Temple that was written by different people. Just one example, Sefer HaMaccabim. So Sefer HaMaccabim is a Jewish book according to the Jewish legend or the Jewish values, and I mean, depends which one of them, but generally speaking, it's a Jewish book. Why it's not in the Bible? So the first and most important criteria to be included in the Bible is that the book is written in divine inspiration, meaning some kind of, I don't want to use the word prophecy yet, because we say that there's a difference between Ketuvim and Nevi'im, because the Ketuvim are not in prophecy, while the Nevi'im are prophecy. So there is a difference between Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration or Holy Spirit, and prophecy. But it's a different of levels. There are different levels of divine inspiration. While the prophecy is when it's like dictated to you by God, or you see a certain kind of a vision, and you interpret it and saying it and writing it. The Ketuvim, the Ruach HaKodesh, is more inspiration. It's not a vision that you are describing or something like that. It's a lower level of connection with God, but still, it's inspired by God. Why is it important? While human can be wrong, God cannot be wrong. okay, by definition. So everything that is included in the Bible is totally truth. Why we can see in the Mishnah or Talmud or other things that it may be discussions. One say one thing and another say another thing. So even though everything is also holy and important and represent different aspects of reality, we can say that there are someone that can be wrong about something, okay, in certain aspect. So first of all, everything that is come from God is totally truth. So we believe, not like I would say the academical way of learning Tanakh, that it must be harmonality. How do you say harmony, meaning that there cannot be contradictions from one place to another place. There cannot be contradiction between, if there is a contradiction, there are many contradictions in the Bible, but it's something that requires you to resolve. It's not, no, this was written by Yeshaya, this was written by Yechezkel, so everybody think other way. No, it's not like that. It's all come from God, so all must be truth. Okay, so this is important in the way that we are our approach of learning Tanakh is different from other things, right? In the basic assumption that everything that is written here is holy, as was given by God. How it was given by God, it's maybe different levels, but everything was given by God. So this is the main criteria of what book enter to the Bible and what book do not enter to the Bible. Those who weren't written in Ruach HaKodesh, in divine inspiration, even though it may be a very good book, a very holy book, and someone that was a big righteous person, tzaddik, wrote this book, it doesn't matter. It's not Bible. It's a holy book. It's an important book. It's not Bible. Bible is only thing that was written as a message from God to human beings. There are cases, we also mentioned that there are cases that maybe a book that was written in this level is not in the Bible. And there is discussions in the Talmud and in the Mishnah about certain books. Sefer Yechezkel, Sefer Kohelet, Sefer Shir Hashirim, Megillah, Megillat Esther. There are certain books that it wasn't clear if they should be included or shouldn't be included in the Bible. Some of them there was doubt if it was written in Ruach HaKodesh, and the conclusion was that yes, but other was from other reasons, I would say exterior reasons. For example, Sefer Kohelet, there are contradictions inside Sefer Kohelet between one part and another part. So how you say it looks like a contradiction, people are going to be wrong about it and think that there is some mistakes in that. So maybe it's better not to include it. And then they decided to include it. Or Shir Hashirim. Shir Hashirim is describing like a love story between men and women. So people may understand that in the wrong way. And it's almost, we can say, erotical in some aspect, in some verses. So maybe it's not the right thing to put in the Bible. Chachamim decided, yes, it should. I don't know about, maybe there were other books that were written in this level and weren't entered to the Bible. They didn't enter to the Bible for that reason or another. I don't know. What the final decision about all these books, that it should be included in the Bible, so we have them today. Okay, but maybe there were others, I don't know about others, but of course, books that are not written in that are not in the Bible. For example, there is one famous book called Ben Sira. Ben Sira is a book that many times is cited, not many times, but sometimes is cited, you say, cited in the Talmud as a verse, but it's not in the Bible. Do you know this book, Ben Sira?
I've heard of it. What's it about?
Yeah, so it's very similar to Mishlei. It's like wisdom sentence. Yeah, how do you say?
Proverbs.
Proverbs. Yeah, that we don't have it. We didn't have the original. So it's historic. We didn't have the original. Many years it was only in Greek. We had only the Greek version that was translated. And then they found, I think in the caves of Yam HaMelach, the Dead Sea, they found the original version in Hebrew.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, of Ben Sira. Anyway, it was a book that was considered a good book. According to some tradition, it's a grandson of Yirmiyah Navi that wrote. Ben Sira is I think the gematria of Sira is Yirmiyah. I don't remember exactly why they arrived to this conclusion, but that he was a grandson, and it's written words of Irat Shamayim, fear of God, of wisdom, etc. But it's not part of the Bible. Why? Because it's a human wisdom. Human wisdom is very appreciated and valued, but it's not Bible. Okay, Bible must be divine. This is the definition. Okay.
Tom, how did the Chachamim decide what? Or
What is-
who had Ruach HaKodesh, you know,
I don't know
Holy
what.
Spirit, or was inspired to?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what is the Ruach HaKodesh matter that they had. But maybe traditions, maybe they knew, they could recognize the difference between human wisdom and divine wisdom.
Inspired.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how they did that, but I mean, that is the criteria according to our tradition. Our tradition, the Bible include all the holy books that were written in divine inspiration that Chachamim decided that should be included. And there were, like I said, there were discussions about that. The discussion, if Sefer Mishle, for example, is the wisdom of Shlomo or the wisdom of God, right? To say that in that way. Okay, so this is generally the whole Bible. And then we have the three parts of the Bible. And the three parts represent different levels of Ruach HaKodesh. We have Ruach HaKodesh of it's not mine. It's mine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. So Ruach HaKodesh of first of all, we have the big difference between the prophecy of Moshe and the prophecy of the other prophets. The prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu is what Chachamim called Aspaklaria Meira. What does it mean, Aspaklaria Meira? It means he sees something. I must just a second. Just to, it looks like something. Someone is very urged to him to write to me. It's my daughter. No, it's my daughter, and she will wait. Yeah, I just. Okay, yeah, I just close the window. Okay. So we have the basic difference between the prophecy of Moshe and the other prophets is Chachamim call it Aspaklaria Meira and Aspaklaria She'ena Meira. We can divide and compare it to a clear vision without any kind of separation, and a vision through something that is a little bit more blur or something that's not very clear. So both of them saw the vision, while Moshe saw it directly and could describe it directly. It was, like I said, dictated by God word by word, exactly the message. The other, there is some kind of involvement of the prophet. The prophet has a vision, and he has to interpret it and transfer it to words and sentences and paragraphs. Okay, so there is difference between Moshe, and this is the 5 books of Moshe are pure, total, transparent words of God, while the other, there is some kind of involvement of the prophet that has to, he is a tube, the intermediate that transfer us the message from God. Now, when a human being is involved, we understand there are levels. And that's the reason that between the prophets there are levels. So Chami said, "En shne nevi'im mitnab'im besignon echad." There's no two prophets that prophesize in the same way. So you can say that, you can see that the famous example is Yeshaya and Yecheskel. Both of them are describing the divine chariot, but a little bit different, because there is an involvement of their vision. So they described it from different aspects. Or someone, maybe for someone it was clearer than the other. So we can see that the first prophets, what I said before, Nevi'im Rishonim, it's the way it's written, it's very understandable. It's like we are speaking. It's like a regular written book, meaning that they could transfer the exact message. While when you read the other prophets, it's a lot of metaphors and symbolism and things that are not very clear. I saw that and that's happened. And the way it's described, you're not sure what it's speaking exactly, because the vision itself maybe wasn't as clear as the vision of the first prophets. Okay, so maybe this is a division between the first and the last. But finally, all these are visions, and this is prophecy. When we are going to the last part, Ktuvim, it's more human. I mean, it starts from human, even though it's inspired by God, it starts from human writing. Also, so David HaMelech writes a psalm in Tehillim, and he has this inspiration, and it's become in other level, not human, right? But it starts from human, yeah.
Which level is what the
President of Beth Israel in Edmonton writes.
I don't know, in the weekly messages.
Okay, right, okay.
It's yeah, Rebecca inspiration, no?
That's right. Okay. What about the, seriousness, J.R. Rowling, Harry Potter? No, seriously, she never wrote much, and then she had this idea of Harry Potter, and it was mainly on the train when she was like commuting to and from work, and she was also unemployed.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the details, but
Yeah.
there are many human beings that are very talented, and the talent is revealed in certain time, not before.
But no,
Right,
she
sorry.
recalls how like this, she had visions in her mind about the story and how it would unfold. It's pretty wild.
The human mind is a amazing and fascinating thing. Yeah, but
was on a different level.
I don't think that Harry Potter should enter the Bible. Not even the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Not even. Okay, so this is generally about the structure of the Bible, and then we are going inside now Sefer Shmuel, or so we say the first Nevi'im are Yoshua. Yoshua is the highest level. There is a Gemara that says that in the future we are going to have only the 5 books of Moshe and the Sefer Yoshua. Why? Because it's Eretz Israel. So what is missing in the 5 books of Moshe is the entrance to Eretz Israel. This is the last thing that is missing. It's interesting that most of the Torah is written about times that Israel was outside of Eretz Israel, right? Because 3 books are in the desert. One Sefer Shmot is beginning in Egypt, and then in the desert. Only Sefer Bereshit, part of Sefer Bereshit, is Eretz Israel. But all the Torah is about Eretz Israel, about going to Eretz Israel. So the mission were never completed until Yeshua. So Yeshua is going to be part of the Torah, or in the future, all the books are going to be erased. Or it says no, the other way. And if not for the sins of Am Israel, all the other books weren't written. So we would only have the 5 books of Moshe and Yoshua. Okay, so Yoshua is almost as the Torah. We know that Yoshua himself, according to one opinion, wrote the last 8 verses of the Torah, according to one opinion. And there is a parasha in Sefer Yoshua that is almost word by word something that is written in the Torah about Arei Miklat. We talked about all of that in Sefer Yoshua. So Yoshua is almost part of the Torah. And then Sefer Shoftim starts the deterioration that we spoke about during the 40 classes that we had about Sefer Shoftim, the deterioration of Am Yisrael in these times. And we finish Sefer Shoftim in a very low level. Am Yisrael making these horrible things, war, civil war, or as it says, as it's called in Hebrew, wars between brothers, milchemet achim, almost eliminating all Shevet, tribe of Binyamin, was almost eliminated. But it's not only that, it's idolatry, and idolatry that we saw in Pesel Micha, the story of Pesel Micha, and rape and murder and all the bad stuff, all came, what it looks like in the last story, from the fact that we don't have a king. In these days, there's no king in Israel. But he says it's more than that. It's the division between Am Yisrael and itself. I mean, the conflict in Am Yisrael. It's the abandon of Eretz Israel, that they didn't bother in taking all the land of Israel. They left parts for the Goyim. And of course, this transformation that was reflected by the idolatry. So all these 3 aspects, disconnection from God, disconnection from each other, disconnection from Eretz Israel, all these things together developing during the book, and until the very bad end of the book with the 2 horrible stories about Sefer Micha, Pesel Micha and Pilegesh Bagiv'ah, the concubine in Giv'ah. So this is how the book ends. And this is the low point where the Sefer Shmuel starts in going up. And Sefer Shmuel, now speaking generally about Sefer Shmuel, is about building the monarchy or the kingdom of Am Yisrael, of Beit David. So this is the basic purpose of the book. So we are starting with the Shoftim. So in the beginning of the book, we still have Shoftim, because the first one is Eli Cohen. We're going to see the story, but Eli Cohen is considered as Shofet. He was a Kohen Gadol and also Shofet. So it's a combination of rules that weren't before, but this is Eli. And then after him, Shmuel himself also is a Shofet. It says, "Vehu shafat et Israel." So he's considered a shofet. And then we have the first king, which is Shaul. And after that, after the failure of Shaul, we are seeing the David HaMelech. So David HaMelech also had failures in his life. The most famous is Bathsheba. But his kingdom, his monarchy, his family will continue forever. So we have to understand the difference why. But the Sefer, the book itself, is speaking about the creation of the kingdom of David. Now, some general details about the book. So we know that the book is divided to Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Bet, the first Shmuel and second Shmuel. This is not a Jewish division. It started in the Tirgum HaShivim, the translation, the Torah of Greek, to Greek, and they actually consider Shmuel and Melachim as one big book, Ton Vasilion. Vasilion in Greek is kings. Because, like I said, the topic or the main topic of the book is the creation of the kingdom of David, and then Sefer Melachim continue the kingdom. So all of those are kings, and then it divided to two Shmuel and two Melachim. So it starts with a Greek translation. It was adapted during the war. Today, we also consider it, I mean, we also learn it usually as Shmuel in Judaism, but it's not a Jew. For us, it's one book. Book of Shmuel, from the beginning of Shmuel Aleph to the end of Shmuel Bet is one book. And Melachim is another book. Okay, why it's important with book? So the question of who wrote it, and if you look at one book, so you see like beginning and ends. You're going from the beginning to the end with one purpose. So we can see how it starts. We're going to see that it starts with the Shirat Hannah, the song of Hannah. It ends with the song of David, and there are connections between the two songs. So we see it's a one unit. Okay, when you treat it as one unit, it's a different way of reading it than seeing it as part of other units. So Sefer Shmuel is one book. It speaks about time of around 100 years. We saw that Sefer Shoftim is around 450 years. Sefer Yoshua, it's about 20 years, 14 years. And Sefer Shmuel, it's about 100 years, more or less. We have 40 years of Eli, about 20 years or 40, depends on the opinion of Shmuel. And then kingdom of Shaul, it's about 13 years. And the kingdom of David, another 30 or 40 years. So more than 100 years. This is more or less the times. Again, we saw two Shoftim, two Melachim, and this is basically the time of the book. Who wrote the book? So you would say that Sefer Shmuel was written by Shmuel. The problem is that he died in the beginning of Sefer Shmuel. Well, not the beginning, the middle of the first part of Shmuel Aleph. So Gemara said in one place that Sefer Shmuel was written by Shmuel, but it's very hard to write after you died. So in then other place it says it was written by three prophets. In the book, during the book, we're going to see three prophets, Shmuel himself, and then we have Gad and Natan. Both of them, Gad and Natan, are prophets, the personal prophets of David. So it was a job like that, a role in the royal, how do you say royal? Hierarchy? What?
Entourage.
No, when you have, the king has his people, and it's like in Hebrew it's called chatzer, yard.
It's court.
Court, yeah, exactly, court. In the royal court of David, there is a special role for Navi. Was Vayomer David el Gad. We say that in Tachanun. So God was a prophet in the time of the sin of Bathsheba. So David spoke with God, and no, in the end, no, that was Natan. In the end, there is another sin of David, and this is what we are saying in Tachanun. Vayomer David el Gad, Niplana biad Hashem. Let Hashem punish us and not the people, because he has option. We're going to see that Hashem, I don't know, a few years from now, when you arrive to this, the end of the book, it's going to take some time. So there are three prophets in the time of David, Shmuel, Gad, and Natan, and they wrote the book. It's really hard. There are some people that try to recognize what part belongs to Shmuel. So it's easy. Shmuel is until he died. What part belongs to God, and so if we have different styles or it's the same, it doesn't matter. It's not really matter. It's a one book. the final editor of the book, may it be whoever it will it be, made it as a one book. So he has apparently paragraphs written by Shmuel, paragraphs written by Zad, and then he made it one whole book. And this is Sefer Shmuel, from the beginning of Shmuel Aleph to the end of Shmuel Bet. It's one book. Yeah. Okay, so this is about who wrote, and generally we can divide the book to three parts. The first part is from the beginning to when Shaul is becoming the king. So it's more about the house of Eli and the development of Shmuel as a leader, as a prophet. And so this is the first part. Then we have the part that speaks about Shaul, the time of the kingdom of Shaul. And in some point, David appears. In the beginning, they are together. After that, it's starting to be a conflict between them. So this is the second part. And then the third part, basically, we can see it as when David arrived, or we can see it as when Shaul passed away and David became the king, the formal king. It's basically the second book. Shmuel Bet is about the kingdom of David when David became a king already. Even though in the beginning there are still fights between David and the heirs of Shaul, but the third part is about the kingdom of David. You can divide it in other ways, but this is the general division. So now we start the book itself, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. So as I said, it's about creating kingdom, and it's come in a contrast to the end of Sefer Shoftim. Sefer Shoftim is בימים ההם אין מלך בישראל, we don't have king, and look what's happened. And in Sefer Shmuel, we are starting to build a kingdom. But from the other side, we must remember, so maybe before that, what is the difference? What is the difference between Shofet and the king? We say that Shoftim, literally translated as judge, it's not really judge that make going to the court. Shoftim is as a way to say leader. Lishpot et Israel, meaning to lead Am Israel. And from the other side, kings were also judge. We can see that in several cases when, for example, you remember the story of Mishpat Shlomo with the two women that came with a baby. Who judged them? Shlomo, the king. So the king was also the judge. So these two rules, even though they are different functions, many times were united in one person. Dvorah Neviah, V'ish of Israel. So he says she was a judge. She was judging on Israel. So what is the difference? We can speak about technical and maybe more essential difference. First of all, halachically, a king is the one who is put with oil. So there is oil. It's called Mashiach. The word Mashiach. What does it mean, Mashiach? Limshoch. What? No. Limshoch is to put oil. They used to put oil on the body, right? Like cream. So this is the meaning of the word limshoch, is to put oil on someone. So Mashiach is someone that was Mashuach with the shemen, with the oil. So it was a special oil that they put on the head of the person. That was the way he's making a king, he's becoming a king. He didn't have to stay with that all the time. He can go to wash to the bath, taking a bath, but this is the action of making him a king. So this is a technical action. What does it mean more than that? Another, maybe the most important difference is that kingdom come from a person to his son, while Shofet is Shofet. He was elected. So we talked about that in Sefer Shoftim, that Gidon, they tried to make him a king. They asked him, can you be a king on us, you and your son and your grandson? So when they're speaking about him as a king, they mention you and your son and your grandson. So the kingdom go from father to son, while Shoftim, no. And maybe another difference, that the Shofet was local. There was no Shofet, maybe Shmuel or Eli, that could unite all Am Israel under his leadership. It was always local. And it was from different tribes, once from these tribes and the other tribe. All the tribes, apart from Shimon, had at least one Shofet. All the tribes apart from Shimon.
What did Shimon?
Shimon is always under the shadow of the sin of Zimri ben Salu, of Pinchas. Remember the story, the Midianitas. So Shimon, we talked about it a little bit. Shimon had a lot of power, a dangerous power. It should be moderated. It should be divided. It should be spread inside Am Israel. Also Levi. But Levi, it was canalized to, how do you say channelized? Channeled, yeah, channeled to the holy war. And Shimon disappeared between Am Israel. Okay, this is another issue. So all the tribes had the opportunity of leadership to express the uniqueness, the spatial character and attributes, but it's not something that can unite all Am Israel. While the king is one who is, first of all, it should continue forever. We should speak about what's happened with Shaul, but basically Hashem told him, unless you hadn't you seen, you would have been a king forever. So it's continuation and a union of all Am Israel. This is also failed. In the time of the son of Shlomo, it was divided. There was not one kingdom, there were two kingdoms, which is against the essence of kingdom, of being one. So the problem with kingdom, so we have Gideon, they were offered him to be a king. He said, no, God is going to be your king. Shmuel himself also was against kingdom. So even though we saw the problems with the Shoftim, and we say, oh, so the king is a solution, but king is also a problem. Kingdom and monarchy, and today that we live in democracy, we can explain that after a history of many, many years that we've been ruled by kings during centuries, we can see that the powers that king have can create corruption and can create people that think that they are gods themselves.
We have that now in Washington.
Without politics. And I don't think that his son is going to continue him. So another problem is exactly with that. Yeah, we'll see about that. Yeah. In the meantime, here we have father and son, no?
Yeah.
It didn't work, right? So what's happened?
He's on his way out very soon.
Yeah. So what's happened is many times, it from one side it create its stability, continuation, less shocks around. From the other side, what's happening if the son is not in the level of the father? Okay, so we can see that the fact that kingdom go in and think about a child growing up in the thought that he is a king and he's going to be a king. It can destroy his soul in many, many ways. A child that growing this way and is being grown to be a king. It can create problems. So we will see. Kingdom is not the absolute solution. What is the absolute solution? God. That's what Shmuel say, that's what Gideon say, but we need leadership. We cannot live without that. So there is a question, what is the ideal way to manage a country, a nation? And today we support democracy, which was the less harmful method to govern a nation, even though it also has problems, okay? In democracy, you have to convince people to vote for you. How do you convince the mass, the many people, right?
Promise him a bunch of stuff.
Promise about many things. So this is the main problem. Everybody decide. Everybody get to decide. What's happening if I have only 60 IQ? I also get to decide. Okay, everybody get to decide. And again, so it's the best solution that we have as human beings. So what's happened if God tell you this is the right person to rule? So that would be the perfect solution. Okay. So this is the kingdom of Israel should be elected by God. When we have connection with him, we lost connection in the last generation, so it's hard to ask him right now. We don't have prophets. But if you have prophets, and the prophet is saying God elected Shaul, or God elected David, that is the best solution. From now on, when the son and the son and the son, it may create a problem. And it was again, after we can say it was arriving to Eretz Israel, Yeshua is the highest level, then the deterioration, it's going down, going down, going down. Then the low level of the end of Sefer Shoftim, and then it starts to rebuild with Eli and Shmuel, to rebuild, and Elkanah, we are going to speak about it already in the next class. We're going to rebuild it again, and it's going to his peak again in the time of David and Shlomo, and from there it's again go down until the destruction. It's not going in one way, in a straight line, they go up and down, but the end of the story it's going down. Okay, and it's destroyed. And we are trying to rebuild it now. That Hashem, when the Mashiach will come, it's going to be for good forever. Okay, so we are continuing Sefer Shoftim. Interesting, I forgot to mention, according to the same Gemara, who wrote Sefer Shoftim? Shmuel. So he decided to divide it to two books. He said, until here it's one book, or at least that's what it looks like. Right? Until it's one book, we see how the deterioration without the king. From now on, we are going to start a new level, a new phase in our history. Even though he himself was against kingdom, he didn't want to name a king. We're going to see that. In the end of the story, he was the one who created the kingdom of Israel. He was the one who named the two first kings, Shaul and David. Where, how do you say, not named, how do you say when you are making someone a king?
Anoint.
Appoint.
Anoint.
Anoint.
Like the oil.
Like the oil, anoint, yeah. So he was the one who anointed Shaul and David. So even though it was, maybe it's the best way. When you are doing Shmuel, yeah, Shmuel was the one, he was told by God that you should anoint Shaul. And after that, when Shaul sinned or failed, he was the one who anointed David without, I mean, in a secret. It was a hidden anoint. Yeah.
Who was the longest serving king in Israel?
I think, if I'm not wrong, it was Menashe, one of the worst kings. There was one who was more than 60 years. I don't remember now.
But that was when the
later, much later. Maybe it was Uzziah, which he was king, but he got Sarat in the middle and he was left at home. He had a replacement. So he was formally king, but not practically king.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we really hope maybe Benjamin Netanyahu will be the long, I don't know. It doesn't leave a lot of time.
But we see all the the chief of staff and other high military now. I don't know if you saw last day or two are resigning.
Yeah.
I don't think Bibi's going to resign anytime soon. He's going to be.
Yeah, but he's not going to be for 60 years. He's 70 something years old. Yeah.
But he's the longest serving prime minister.
Yeah, that's for now. Yeah. Okay, so with that Hashem, we are going to start reading the book itself, with that Hashem, next week.
Yeah.